In today's video, I have 5 concealer tips for you. These tips are guaranteed to give you the coverage that you need under the eye, give you the longevity that you need in your concealer, prevent creasing and caking, and just giving you a nice, natural, bright under eye. Let's go. So step number 1 is hydrating the under eye area immediately before applying concealer. Now, this is separate from your skincare routine unless you do your skincare and then immediately go into applying your makeup. I don't. I usually do my skincare and then quite a bit of time has passed until I sit down and do my makeup. So that under eye area is dry. Product has been absorbed and I no longer have that plump, hydrated feel to the skin when I touch it. And that's really what you want. In terms of products you can use, any hyaluronic acid serum is really nice. I'm using the Colleen Rothschild hyaluronic serum. I keep this here at my desk when I film and I always use it. It's one of my favorites, but there are many others you can use. The objective here is having something lightweight that will absorb into the skin pretty quickly. You don't want a really heavy, rich cream, or you don't want anything really heavy or emollient. You can also use a lightweight facial oil if you have one of those. Just make sure that it's not going to interfere with the concealer. And sometimes we just have to do trial and error to see if that's going to happen. Sometimes oil can break down makeup and interfere with it. So make sure whatever oil you're using is nice and lightweight and just play around with it and see how it works. So what you want to do is you just want to apply a very thin layer of this underneath the eyes. So why do you want to do this? Well, you really just want to plump and hydrate that skin. The skin under the eyes is the thinnest on the face. It also tends to be the area that we show the most texture. We smile, we have expression lines. This is where the skin shows the most texture typically on the face, is right in this area. So when you have thin skin and you have a lot of texture, when that area is dry, it can really magnify that texture once you put makeup on top of it. So putting something there that's hydrating and also it's going to plump and fill those lines in is just going to go a long way when it gets to your concealer. Tip number 2, and this is optional, but I find that if you have really dark circles, sometimes it can be challenging to get the coverage that you need from concealer alone. So this is where I would integrate a color correcting product into your concealer routine. Now, it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to feel like an extra step. I know it's an extra product. It can be a little intimidating, but what this is going to do is it's going to neutralize that darkness so that you need less concealer. So again, the goal here really is to get you to a point where you can cut back the amount of concealer that you use and still get great coverage, if not better coverage, than using a ton of concealer. I grabbed this little palette from Stila. What you want to look for is something that is a peachy or orangey undertone, depending on how dark your skin is. If you're a little bit darker, you can use something more orange. If you're lighter, you can use more of this like light peach here. I'm going to go in with this shade right here, but just using something that has an orange tone, because orange is really what's going to neutralize and cancel out blue or like green kind of underneath the eyes, which is typically what we have when we're dealing with really dark circles. So you can just take a little bit of this on your finger and apply this underneath the eye first. Now, even though it looks really orange, don't get discouraged, you guys, because like I said, it's just going to neutralize and cancel out that darkness. And then you can go in with more of a concealer shade, which is your skin tone, maybe a little brighter, to tie it all together. Another mistake that people make when they're trying to cover dark circles is they go in for a concealer that's really, really light, because they're like, this is so dark, I want it to be light and bright. Let me take a concealer that's 4 or 5 shades lighter than my skin and apply that. But I always tell people that is like applying white pantyhose over a really dark bruise. You're not fooling anybody. You're just going to give it this like gray cast. And it's going to be obvious that there's still something there. So you want to neutralize it first, and then you can go in with your concealer and kind of tie the whole look together. Okay, now to be totally honest, you guys, this product alone kind of did the trick. I really don't feel like there's any more need for concealer. However, I'm going to give you tips and tricks and we're going to go in and apply concealer. But I wanted to say that because when it comes to under eyes especially, and really I kind of apply this to makeup in general, but less is more. When you get the coverage that you need, it's okay to be like, that's all I need. I don't need to apply more. I don't need to go in with that extra step. And I would say most days this would be fine for me. This is what I would do, and I would feel like I've got the coverage that I need. You can still see a little bit of the darkness through it. You can still see a little bit of my under eye circles, but nothing, you know, nothing that I couldn't live with or go throughout my day. But if you want that extra full coverage, then you go in with a concealer. Now, choosing the right formula is so important. I have a variety of concealers here, you guys, and I'm not gonna go through every single one of them, but I'm gonna go through the different types of concealers in terms of coverage. So just always remember that concealer is going to be your most full coverage product that you use, okay? More full coverage than foundations. It is very, very pigmented, and it's very, very concentrated, and it is designed for you to use a very little amount. That's why you don't use concealer all over the face, because it would just be way too heavy. This is meant to be used to cover what foundation won't, okay? So keep that in mind. Now, I have a few here. These are my kind of favorite, like, lightweight concealers. I've really been loving this new one from Sephora. This is the Sephora brand. It's the Best Skin Ever Glow Concealer. We're actually going to use this one today. Very, very lightweight. It does give a very hydrated, glowy look to the skin. You need to set all concealers, but this is one that you need to kind of do a couple little extra steps just to prevent any creasing or having the concealer kind of migrate or settle in lines. I haven't really had any issues, but I have gone kind of just a little above and beyond just to make sure that I'm doing everything that I can to make it stay in place. This is the shade 25, you guys, and this is a little bit too light for me. I actually went back to the store and I bought the next shade up from this. I think it was 25.5, but I still like this as a brightener, especially when I go in with the color corrector like I just did. I would use a lighter concealer like this. So this is one that I love. I also grabbed the Neutrogena Radiant Cream Concealer. This is a beautiful concealer. It's very hydrating. It's very lightweight. It's going to give you a good coverage, but it's not super heavy duty full coverage, and it's very beautiful. I also grabbed the Clé de Peau Radiant Corrector for Eyes is what this is called. And this is like a correcting pen. You just kind of load it up and then apply it with this little brush, and then I'll go in with my fingers and blend it out. This gives a really nice light coverage as well. What I love about this product is you can get a really nice light coverage, but you can also kind of let this self-set for a second, apply a little bit, slightly blend it out with your finger, let it self-set for a few seconds, maybe 20 seconds. Then you can go in with a brush and blend it out, and it's almost like you're going to get a little extra coverage out of this. So those are kind of my favorite lightweight concealers. When it comes to like natural cover concealers, I love this Pretty Fresh from ColourPop. So nice. I have the shade Medium 85N, and this is just a really nice natural finish concealer. It was hydrating, but it stays in place. A little bit is all that you need. It gives just the right amount of coverage. I recommend this. It's very budget friendly. I want to say this is like under $10. One of my favorite concealers of the moment is the Natasha Denona concealer. I love this. This gives great coverage. It's also lightweight and it stays in place. I also grabbed the Bobbi Brown Full Cover Concealer, really full coverage concealer, but not heavy looking, really nice. And then when it comes to like heavy duty coverage, you have things like the Tarte Shape Tape. I feel like people either love this concealer or they hate this concealer. It is full coverage. So when you're using a full coverage concealer, really be mindful about how much you're applying. The tiniest dot. Start with the tiniest dot, go in and blend, and you might find that you don't even need more than that. It might feel like not enough when you first apply it, but you blend it out and you see just how much coverage this gives. So keep that in mind, that the formula that you use is not only going to impact the coverage, but it's also going to impact the finish. The heavier the product, the more likely it's going to accentuate texture and fine lines. So keep that in mind. The goal is to find a concealer that gives you just enough coverage, but not too much, not too little, just that perfect amount. Okay, you guys, let's get into applying the concealer. I'm a new Sephora. I love this one. It's really beautiful, you guys. And this is a concealer that you can use all over the face if you want to brighten or highlight the face. I usually don't do that with concealer because, again, it's a very heavy product and I don't like to put it all over the face, but this is one that I would. And I'm just gonna put a little bit of this right in the inner corner. I'm also going to take this and just kind of pull it up here to give a little bit of a lift to the face and the eyes. This is just a perfect formula for this. I love this formula. If you haven't tried it, I highly recommend it. And it's the Sephora brand, so even though it's not drugstore, it is going to be one of the more affordable brands at Sephora. Now the brush that you use is very important. Right now I've really been loving the Nikki LaRose N14 for my concealer. This is more of a precision powder brush, but I love it for concealer. It kind of reminds me of the 110, but much smaller. So I'm going to let this sit for just a few seconds, and then I'm just going to go in and blend out. For concealer, I really love to do this technique of just pressing, 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 and basically taking the pressing motion as far as I can to blend out. And once I've gotten most of the blending done, what I'll do is I'll take my brush and I'll just run it on a towel, a paper towel, soft towel. I'm just kind of removing any excess product from this, and then I'm going to go back in and finish off the blend. Because we have texture underneath the eyes and we have little fine lines, you really want to make sure that you are absorbing any excess product that you have, so you don't have product that settles in those little fine lines. This little brush reminds me of like the mini beauty blender, but it's not going to absorb all your product, so you don't have to use as much product. Next step is setting your under eye concealer, and this is really important. And I feel like some people like to avoid powder underneath the eyes, especially when we get older or if we have really dry skin. Powder can kind of work against us if we apply too much or use the wrong formula. I really love a loose powder underneath the eyes because it's just really finely milled and it's lighter weight, and it just gives you, it can give you a softer set than like a pressed powder. One of my favorites right now is the Givenchy Prisma Libre powder. These are absolutely beautiful underneath the eye. A little bit is all you need. And I have two shades here. Oh, actually, they're the exact same. Somehow I bought the exact same. I do this all the time. I like shade 3 and I like shade 2. This is shade 2. And what I like to do is I just like to dispense a little bit in the lid. I'll take the same brush that I use for concealer and I will load the brush up. Okay, I've really got it loaded here, but I'm not going to go in with this much powder, you guys. I'm going to tap off this excess and get quite a bit of it off. You can even kind of like press it onto the skin just to get, and I'm getting quite a bit of powder off of this brush when I do this. You don't need a lot. I grabbed a lot to really work the powder into the brush bristles, but I really don't want all of that, especially on the first pass. So then I'm just gonna go and I'm just gonna press underneath the eye using the same brush. So this is just gonna set everything. If there's any concealer hiding in those fine lines, it's going to kind of set and absorb that. It's also going to give some smoothness. This powder is very, very blurring and smoothing. So it's great for the under eye area because, like, again, we have texture there, fine lines, and it just makes everything look real smooth. And I'll usually take the brush and kind of bring it down the cheeks too. This new trick that I'm really excited to share with you, and this can be in addition to setting it with powder, it can also be in substitution for setting with powder. If you really just want to avoid powder underneath the eyes, find a setting spray, something that's hydrating. The Urban Decay All Nighter, they came out with this new one. It's called Vitamin C Cactus Flower Long Lasting Setting Spray, but it's hydrating. I also love the Jane Iredale Hydra Palm Mist. I'm going to use that one today. You can actually just spray the brush and you can just go in and press that underneath the eyes. And you can do this on top of the powder, or if you want to skip powder altogether and use this as your setting preference, you can do that as well. You want to avoid setting sprays that are really high in alcohol content or really drying. You want to make sure that you're finding a hydrating setting spray, okay? That's very, very important. So those are my 5 tips. I hope that they helped you the next time you're applying your concealer. If you try any of these, if you try all of these, come back and let me know how they worked out for you. As always, thank you so much for spending some time with me here on my channel. I hope you have a beautiful day, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.